Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Steve Kramer with the Minneapolis Downtown Council. Happy to welcome you to this joint program with our colleagues at the Easttown Business Partnership. We're just going to wait for a minute or so and let a few other people join us, and then we'll get going on the program. So I'll be right back at you here in a minute or so. While we're waiting, if you want to introduce yourself in the chat function, that would be great, so we know who's part of the program this morning. Well, again, good morning. I think we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks for joining us. I'm Steve Kramer, the President and CEO of the Minneapolis Downtown Council, and this is a joint program with the Easttown Business Partnership focused on updating everyone on construction projects that are going on in and around downtown. So we're really happy you've joined us for this informative and really great panel that we have this morning. I just want to start by hoping everyone is doing well. We continue to work our way through some pretty challenging issues as a community and as a downtown. Thank you for all that you're doing. We certainly continue to focus on planning for back to office, addressing safety concerns, all the things that are going to go into ultimately helping our downtown bounce back strongly to the level of vitality that we saw not so long ago. So thanks for being a part of that. And certainly the projects that we are going to talk about today are going to contribute for the long run to that sense of economic vibrancy and competitiveness in our downtown. So excited to hear from our panelists about how their projects are progressing. Before we get into that, I think my colleague Mary Beth Weisberg is going to give a few the trade here in terms of how this seminar might proceed. So Mary Beth, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thanks Steve. Good morning everybody and thanks for joining us. Before we get started, I'd like to go through a few housekeeping items to remember as we go through the webinar. So we're all at the mercy of our Wi-Fi connections and technology, and we just want to say that we appreciate your patience should we experience any technical difficulties. The conversation is being recorded and it'll be posted on our YouTube channel, and we'll send a link to all the folks who registered as well as send it out in our newsletter. So feel free to share that, or if you want to watch it again later. As we kick off the program, feel free to introduce yourselves with your name and company in the chat, as Steve mentioned, and I see people are already doing. It's great to be able to connect and know who's here. If you have a question that you'd like answered by the panelists at the end of the presentation, please go ahead and use the Q&A function. We'll try to answer as many questions as we can as we have time at the end of the program. Now back to Steve, who will share some information about some of our upcoming programs.
Great, thanks Mary Beth. We do have a series of programs over the balance of the year, and you can find out more information about them at mplsdowntown.com. The next specific program is, as you can see on the screen, September 22nd, and continuing in a series that we've had with leaders of color, and in this case, a focus on the kind of towards cultural competency and tools that those of us in leadership positions can use to address that most important question, especially as our community used to work in the aftermath of the George Floyd killing and work towards a better community for all. So you can join us for that and check out all the other programs that we'll be having over the course of the rest of 2020. I wish it were 1920 actually, how this is going. Well, with that, I'm going to turn the program over to my colleague Dan Collison, who is both our Director of Downtown Partnerships and also the Executive Director of the Easttown Business Partnership, and he's going to introduce the panelists and facilitate the meeting from here. So Dan, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks so much, Steve. Appreciate that. And everybody, thank you for joining this webinar. And for those who are watching it later, for taking the time to explore the topics that we have laid out for today. It's a fantastic webinar, and the leaders you're about ready to hear are the best and at the top of their field and going to bring tremendous content to us. I have just a couple of announcements on behalf of the Easttown Business Partnership. and Mary Beth will help me facilitate those. One, and I love this, right? Throw a lot of content on screen, make it really small, fine print. But this is the flyer of the Easttown Business Partnership for our entire Business Forum season. I'm sharing it with you here. We'll make sure there's a link to it. You can get it from the Easttown Business Partnership website as well. And I'm sharing it with you here because I want you to know we've really retooled this. We worked really hard to always stay ahead and be thoughtful about the topics that are relevant. But because of so many of the challenges that you are all facing, that our community is facing, we did a number of tweaks. And so I present this to you for your consideration. 4 of these, including today, are partnering with the Minneapolis Downtown Council, and we're working very hard to bring timely and relevant topics. And for instance, the next slide will show you about next month's forum for the Easttown Business Partnership. We are so thrilled to have Jackie Berglund, CEO of Finnegan's Brew Co., who's going to be having a really unique panel that sort of brings together the mindset of entrepreneurs who actually, I wouldn't say they always love disruption, but they're amazing at navigating it. And so we're going to hear from entrepreneurs, the startup community. Some of you may know that Startup Week is taking place in kind of a unique tech and online version this year over 3 weeks. Jackie is an epitomal entrepreneur and startup person, and so she's going to lead a conversation about, yes, the community of entrepreneurialism, but then how can that maybe inform all of us, even if we're not necessarily in the entrepreneurial space, to think timely and relevant and strategy ways for our company and for ourselves in this time. Please go to our website for other things. We've also launched a new video gallery that's supporting both our hospitality businesses and as well our social service advocates, which are both in kind of the deep waters right now. A couple other things. The Mill City Farmers Market continues to roll. They have amazing programming, not just in the summer, but throughout the year. And so I invite you to participate with this. And they have pre-orders. They have things on site that you can access. The Minneapolis Public Park and Rec Board is now going into another comprehensive plan and is open for comment. Please engage. We are so proud of our parks, award-winning parks, but we want your opinions and your perspectives. So please contribute by following the links that they're presenting. We show them on screen right now to participate in the ongoing planning of the parks. Next, we want to share, as we do, sometimes get granular. There's a blood drive at the Aloft, a fabulous hotel in downtown East, and in partnership with the American Red Cross, 2 partners of Easttown. Please participate as you have time and availability. We also are having a pickup cleanup that we do from time to time, Litter Be Gone, October 1 through 10. We invite everyone to participate in cleaning up the neighborhoods and the downtown neighborhoods. Participate as you are able. And next, there's lots of engagement going on. I know this is a lot of technical jargon, draft built form regulations, but especially for those who are in the development community, those who want to know what's happening next and how the city is guiding urban design and urban planning, please engage with this. These are points of engagement in which you are able to lift your voice up and have conversation about the types of zoning that we have. And that's so important when it comes to downtown perspectives. Elliott Park Neighborhood had a wonderful annual meeting recently, and they are deeply engaged in the community safety conversation. You're invited to join in that conversation, particularly if you work or live in the neighborhood. They're also driving some interesting programming with a pop-up food market. They have a food initiative going on in the neighborhood that's really exciting, and we invite you to come by and check it out and support it as well. Both the Downtown Minneapolis Neighborhood Association and the Elliott Park Neighborhood Incorporated are important partners to the Easttown Business Partnership. I'm always inviting all of us to engage in their neighborhood meetings, board meetings, land use meetings. With Zoom now, it can be done very conveniently, and they're all providing that platform as a way to engage. Another announcement, Councilmember Steve Fletcher wants us to always share. If you have a conversation, you want to have some things you want to talk to him about, he's got some basically, well, they're virtual coffees. And so you can link in and listen and also share things and open questions that you have for Councilmember Fletcher. And then finally, for all those who are engaged with small business at any level, whether you're doing small business or you know someone who's navigating small business, lots of props for the City of Minneapolis small business team. They have a remarkable website. I know most of the team members. and they are navigators who give you almost one-on-one service if you engage directly through the context there. And I'm also pleased to make that connection. That's it for announcements. Now again to our feature presenters for the day. I am just so thrilled that we have David Akins, Public Affairs Coordinator at the Minnesota Department of Transportation, Charles Colson, Director of Bus Rapid Transit for Metro Transit, Don Elwood, Director of Transportation Planning and Engineering at the City of Minneapolis Public Works Department, Gene Garbarani, I even practiced this, Gene, I am so sorry. Gene Garbarini is the principal at Damon Farber, an incredible landscape architecture firm downtown, and then Charlie Zelli, who's the chair of Metropolitan Council and an incredible leader who's served in many public positions over these years. I'm so pleased, Charlie, that you had the time today to join us from your incredibly busy time. So I will now pass this back to my colleagues to move through these presentations. I am going to be standing by and will love to facilitate a Q&A as we head towards wrap up of this. Please send them, post them online, and we will have some Q&A as we wrap up the forum today. Thanks again for being here with us.
Okay, I'm on apparently. So I'm Gene Garbarini. Thank you, Dan, landscape architect, principal with Damon Farber Landscape Architects. And it's my pleasure to be here today to talk about the Waterworks project, which is a 2.5-acre park and pavilion development, which is under construction in the Mill District near the Stone Arch Bridge, as well as right near St. Anthony Falls. This project is made possible by the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board, as well as donors to the Minneapolis Parks Foundation, and also a grant through the Mississippi Watershed Management Organization. So I'm excited to talk about this project where it's well under construction, and I'm going to run through this axon that you have on your screen right now, as well as have some additional construction photos. So on your screen is our axonometric, our rendering. On the left-hand side, you can see a structure. This site was historically filled with mill ruin, mill buildings, the birthplace of Minneapolis milling. And so HJ Architects are our partner on this project, and they have done a wonderful job at converting a former Bassett Mill and the Columbia Mill into a structure which will serve the park and the area. That building will have meeting space that will be public meeting space. It'll have public restrooms. It'll have an office space for the park board staff, which will be staffed here on a regular basis. And then the second floor will have a restaurant, which we're very excited about. That restaurant will be run by Sean Sherman, James Beard award-winning chef, AKA the sous chef. So we're super excited. All of this is happening. The building is going to be beautiful, and you'll really be up and close to see the craftsmanship that went into the construction of some of these mill buildings that once existed on the site. So from the building, the site design really extends beyond that and expands out into this project. One of the key issues that we had to really overcome on this site was that it's a long linear site. It's got a significant amount of grade change between First Street and West River Parkway. And so we wanted to make sure that we were making this site as accessible and also as visually accessible as possible to really improve the safety of this area and to draw people in. We think that this site will actually become a key visitor area for the tourists that come. We know that there are 1 million tourists to the Stone Arch Bridge every year. So the goal here was to provide a welcoming space, a gathering space, provide amenities for visitors and the neighborhood and community alike. And this is an area that currently doesn't really have a lot of those public amenities. This site also works really hard to knit the Stone Arch Bridge circulation along the river and along West River Parkway into downtown Minneapolis. So on the left-hand side, you can see the building, Expanding out beyond that, in front of the building on the riverside will be a plaza, which will be fully landscaped. That will be an area that will have a lot of tables and chairs and seating. You can grab food from the restaurant and eat outside. It also has fire features in this space, and that will expand the usability of this area into the shoulder seasons of spring and fall, as well as wintertime use. And then just above that, in the area above that, on the top of the Columbia Mill, we've actually designed a space that will function as a terrace space and will directly connect into the second floor restaurant, and that will be used for seating, for dining, as well as for just viewing the falls, and also can be a place that can be reserved for private parties. In the middle of the site, you'll see sort of a switchbacked walkway, and that walkway starts to navigate this slope that I mentioned before. That'll be a walkway that kind of switches back with gardens in between, and also a lot of built-in seating into the slope. And that seating will function as seating for some small performances, as well as a place to have a picnic, and also just to relax and watch the beauty of the river, the falls, and sort of the theater of people walking along the West River Parkway. And then knitting this together is a turf panel that sort of stretches along the parkway. It will connect a play area, which will be on the north side of the site, back to the pavilion. And then this key connection that I mentioned is this walkway that extends along West River Parkway, is accessible and bike friendly, runs underneath the First Street Bridge, and then knits this site and the Stone Arch Bridge in the mill area back into downtown Minneapolis. So we're really excited about this, and I have a few construction photos that I want to share. So you can go to the next slide. So on the left-hand side, there is a photograph of the Bassett Mill. You can see the beautiful barrel vaulted ceilings in this space. This is obviously one of the spaces that we're rehabilitating. This will be our future meeting room. And then you can see where the roof has been removed, and we're placing the second story onto this site, but this will be one of the spaces that you'll be experiencing when you walk into the building. On the right-hand side, in the upper slide, we have the ruin of the Columbia Mill, and we fully excavated this wall. We have rehabilitated this wall, and this will be sort of the perch where it will connect into the restaurant on the second floor, and you'll have a fabulous view of the falls from this area. And on the lower right-hand side, I wanted to just show the condition of some of the site walls that we excavated during the process. We're trying very hard to reconnect to the milling, the former milling use of this site, and use these walls, rehabilitate them as amenities as wherever we possibly could in the site. Next slide. This is a view from the inside of the second floor. So this will be the restaurant space, and you can see the fabulous view outside of both of the falls and of the lovely sculptural Third Avenue Bridge. This was also the view that you could see if you ever visited the Fuji restaurant that used to be on this site. This is the same view. So we also are honoring the Fuji restaurant that was one of the first restaurants to really take advantage of being sited on the river and really start to take back that industrial riverfront. Next slide. So through the process and through our design work, we really wanted to make sure that we were honoring the full history and significance of this site, and really the power and the deep roots of this site, really ranging from the indigenous history to the post-industrial, to the mill, to the birthplace of Minneapolis, and all the way to the contemporary use of this site. And we know that this is an incredibly popular place even today, and that is because this site is so powerful. Next slide. So we made sure that we incorporated a lot of interpretation, a lot of interpretive elements into our design. We've engaged with some American Indian artists who are helping us with some patterning. We're interpreting some of the plant materials on the site. Many of the plant materials that we're growing will be used in the cooking, in the recipes that the sous chef will be making. We will get people up and close and really able to really feel the beautiful construction and the power of the existing mill ruin buildings. And then the other thing that we wanted to make sure that we're highlighting and interpreting on this site is the fact that we will be reusing 950,000 gallons of water, rainwater that we are harvesting from adjacent buildings and filtering onto the site, storing it, and using it for both irrigation and also to use for toilet flushing inside the building. So this is really a model of rainwater harvesting that was made possible by the grant that we received from the Mississippi Watershed Management Organization. Next slide. So I have a few more slides of just the construction under progress. On the left is the plaza in front of the main building in front of the Columbia Mill. You can see our fire features there. The pavers are going in today and they were in yesterday, so we'll be running back out there to watch what's happening. On the right-hand side, you can see some of the integration of some of the site walls that have been rehabilitated and are part of our design. Move forward. And then this is a slide of that switchback walk and the city steps and the built-in seating and the gardens. And again, really just trying to highlight those existing walls wherever possible. Next. And then looking out from the city steps down to the terrace, the lawn terrace, that flexible programming space, and then out to the view of the beautiful 3rd Avenue Bridge, which is also being rehabilitated at this time. Next. And just a rendering of the completed project, which we are about 60 to 70% complete. The site work will be complete this fall. The building, the first floor and the exterior will finish by February of 2021. And then that will be followed by the opening of the restaurant in 2021.
Thanks so much, Jean. That was great. We're going to move on now to Don, who's going to talk to us about Hennepin Avenue.
Great, thank you. We can go right to slide number 2. And before I jump in, I want to thank all our partners on the Hennepin Avenue project, the business and property owners, the Minneapolis DID, Metro Transit, federal, state, and local money, and our private utility companies. And we have a great team put together to deliver a project like this with Kimley Horn, SEH, AECOM, and our contractor, Tyzac. It's a great partnering that's come together to put the Hennepin Avenue reconstruction project together. It runs from Washington to 12th, and we're adding wider sidewalks and protected bike lanes and enhanced bus stops. Next slide. Key pieces are transit. We've learned from the past on how to provide quality transit, and working with Metro Transit, we've come up with a plan for Hennepin. Open shelters, real-time signage, nearly level boarding. You're starting to see that, and off-board fare payment. Next slide. Some key pieces for the Hennepin Avenue project. It's really the people side of it, and peds and bikes. And so we put together a streetscape package, learning from projects of the past and working with the DID of what works well for plantings and lighting. And we started to bring this project together. Custom lighting, larger trees, planting beds, irrigation of the plantings. Next slide. With our streetscape enhancement, we also have some, the trees, the bicycle parking, and parking lot fencing. As we were going through this project, we have learned that communication continues to be a critical part of this project. And so in order to help the public understand what we're talking about, because sometimes these pictures don't do enough, our Kimley Horn team put together a nice video to give us a flavor of what that would look. And if we could roll that video now, that'd be great. Thank you. The communication and working with our downtown partners has been critical on this project, and there's public safety from vehicle crashes and pedestrian crashes, and we've had numerous discussions to try to make it wider for the pedestrians, make crossing distance shorter, and it's been really great working with them. Before you can get started, though, it's how do you get there? And we put together a lessons learned diagram of all the utilities that are underneath our city streets. And in order to support the downtown environment, there is water and gas and sewer and power with the electric company, heating and cooling, and telecommunications. This wireless communication ironically requires a lot of wires underground. And our systems are very old. Our sanitary sewer was built in 1887. That's 1887. And it's 20 feet down. And so this has been a challenge in this corridor to get at this aging infrastructure, which really, you don't see it, but it's a critical piece. And this diagram has served us well on communication to help explain what's going on when you see the equipment that's out there. Let's jump to the next slide. So how do these videos and concepts actually translate into concrete on the ground? And here on this slide, this shows at the Orpheum Theater how much more pedestrian space is out in front of that theater. And that was a key piece as well, that by narrowing up the roadway, we have more room for pedestrians. We have the bike lane there next to the curb line. And that upper right photo shows how we bend the bike lane away from the intersection away from the road as we come to the intersection. Again, this has to do with public safety from vehicle crashes, pedestrian crashes. That key safety piece allows a safe area for pedestrians to wait. It shortens up the crossing distance on the street. And then some little things where we pull bus stops back from the intersections allows better sight lines for turning vehicles. So there's many safety features that are built into this that aren't so obvious. Let's jump to that next slide. The photo on the left is that the bike lane, it's up off the road. It's called a protected bike lane. And then we have a test run of our light poles that are going in. And yes, the poles will be higher. We're not putting the lights right there, but that's just to see, does the base fit? How's it gonna work? How's it gonna fit? And again, it shows how much more pedestrian space there is. Next slide. The slide on the left shows the bus shelter is on the left-hand side, and we pull the bike lane behind that bus shelter, and what that allows for is the transit users are out of the pedestrian way, out of the bikeway, they're in their own space. That seems to work really well. We have a wide sidewalk next to the building space, and that runs continuously, and you can get an idea in the photo on the right. The area that's covered with plastic still is our amenity zone, and so you have a full sidewalk and amenity zone in there. This is another photo of the pullback, and on the photo on the right, that concrete curb that's in there, that's our future planted area that'll have irrigation, and fencing will go on top of that. The key piece of going into is communication with our stakeholders. We do weekly updates and push out information. We update our webpage. We have weekly online meetings where the businesses and anybody can come in and ask questions. And our team at SEH that's heading up the construction put together this video to give a sense for where are we right now. And this is probably within the last week and a half. And if you could roll that video, that'd be great. That was great. Thanks for running that. I think the key message is we are investing in downtown, and I think the private sector is investing in downtown. And you saw in that drone flyover those sky cranes in operation. That's not my project. That's private investment going in on this corridor. Coming soon, phase one will be done this fall in 2020. That's 7th to 12th. And then next year in 2021, we'll get Washington to 4th completed. And then we'll finish up in 2022 when all the utility work is done from 4th to 7th. All this stuff is up on our webpage. Please visit our webpage, and thanks for your time today.
Don, thanks so much. What a phenomenal and massive project that is transformational. The drone stuff is super cool. There are a couple questions coming into the Q&A. Before we now turn to David Akins, I just want to encourage drop questions in the Q&A, and I'll be tracking with them. We may not be able to get all of them, but I just encourage engagement. And after the presentations are over, I'll then pull us into the Q&A. David Akins, tell us about 35W 3rd Avenue Bridge. What's up?
Dave, you're muted. We can't hear you.
I got it. All right. Sorry. Hi, my name is Dave Ikens. I'm with MnDOT Communications in the Metro District, and I'm here to talk about the I-35 and 94 project and the 3rd Avenue Bridge, which you see right there with the shining Mississippi River. We are, let's just leave this up for just a moment, please, and then we will talk about the 3rd Avenue Bridge first. A little bit of history. The 3rd Avenue Bridge is connects Northeast Minneapolis to downtown. It was opened in 1918, and it is historic because of its S-curve that was designed to make sure that it was able to stay up and not crack the limestone. They were concerned that the riverbed would break and that the bridge and the falls would be ruined. So they managed to do a good job of keeping that up. We really haven't done any work on it since 1980. So we're out there with in full force right now with something that we think that will last about 50 years before we have to come back. We started this project in May of 2020. So we've been going at it for about 4 months or so. Can you, next slide, please. Here's how it looks now. This is, you've got 1 lane in each direction, and then in the center, you've got a transit only. So the transit will go out of downtown in the afternoon and into downtown in the morning. So that is going to stay in place until January 4th, when we'll be fully closed for 2 years. Folks are going to have to take the Hennepin Bridge to get in and out of downtown. And then those on bikes and walkers, we're going to send them over to the Stone Arch Bridge. So we've got a lot of work to do on this bridge. We're going to do a complete redeck, which is replacing the driving surface. Go to the next slide, please. We're also doing some concrete repairs under the bridge on the piers. You can see this is happening right now as we speak. We've got a tugboat that is pushing barges underneath the bridge or near the bridge, and we're using machinery to chip away the old concrete, and then the crews will replace the old concrete with fresh new concrete that will last certainly at least 50 years. So that you can see that there's definitely parts of this bridge that are in need of some tender loving care. So we're gonna do some of that. As we do this project, one of the things that we're going to be making certain is that we maintain the historical significance of this, and in some ways we're working to enhance it even, because in some ways we lost some of that, and we're going to do some things to make sure that the bridge looks more like it did when it was built than it does now. So we're spending a lot of time on that. At the end of my presentation, I'm going to tell you how you can learn more about the history of this bridge. Let's go to the next slide, please. I'm going to talk about I-35 and 94 for a moment. This is the lanes in and out of downtown. This is I guess what we call Highway 65, but I don't know that anybody actually calls it that. Right now we've got it open on one side where folks can drive up and down or get in and out. And this project has been on since August of 2017, and on September 11th of this year, we got inside. We're now less than 1 year away from being done with it. We've built new bridges, we've got new retaining walls, new noise walls, new drainage. You're seeing this new, we've got the new flyover bridge from 35 North to 94 West. You can see that's starting to take shape. We're going to, we've got lots of new, on October, in early October, we'll be opening the ramp from southbound 35 to 35th Street. I know a lot of people are excited about that. We're just waiting for a signal to be installed, and we'll be ready to open that. We had to close the ramp from 19th to 94 East. That's going to be closed till November 8th. That will reopen then, and also with the exit to 35 North will also open up at the same time. So that's exciting news. We've got a weekend closure coming up in first weekend of October. We're going to put in some fresh striping, move some barriers around, kind of get it ready for the winter. And then the last year, we're going to spend some time finishing the northbound lanes. If you drive through there now, you can see it's all dirt and that. Right now, they're grading it. Can you put the next slide up, please? One of the things that's being worked on, this is the frame of the Metro Transit Orange Line Transit Center that's going on right there at Lake Street, and that is taking shape quickly. And that again will be done at about this time next year. So that's pretty exciting. And we've got one of the couple of exciting things coming up next year is we're going to build a ramp from 35 North to 28. So instead of everyone taking the exit to Lake and 31st, those folks, there's roughly 10,000 employees that work over by Wells Fargo and the hospitals and that. They can go directly at 28th, and that will take some of the pressure off of Lake and 31st. And hopefully some of those backups that you used to see won't be there anymore. So we're pretty excited about that. We're also opening up a ramp directly to Lake Street. So that should take some of the pressure off of 35th and 36th. So there's a lot of exciting things. It's a complete rebuild, about 2.5 years worth of work, or 2.5 miles of work in about 4.5 years. And we've got about a year left, and things are going pretty well. So appreciate everyone's time. If you want to learn more about this project, there's the website, the 3rd Avenue Bridge. And we've got, if you go to the website for the 3rd Avenue Bridge and check under meetings, we're going to be doing an historian-led tour on September 29th from 5:30 to 6:30. That's going to be on a virtual program. So you can sign up for that. You're going to need to register just like this. Again, you'll find that on the website under meetings. Appreciate your time. You can go to the next slide. Here's how you reach me if you've got any questions about this project or any of these projects or any projects in Hennepin County. I handle all the communications for the projects in Hennepin County. So I want to thank everyone for their time and thank the Downtown Council for inviting me today, and happy to answer anybody's questions now or later.
Thanks so much, Dave. And thank you for all the meetings. I know you participated at a neighborhood level. We're grateful for that. Pivoting to Charles, bring us into bus rapid transit, which has been a forefront facing set of initiatives that's exciting for us in downtown.
Great, thank you. Hi, everybody. Thanks for taking the time today. Next slide. So the Metro Orange Line is a bus rapid transit line that runs from downtown Minneapolis to Burnsville. So this is something that we've been planning for quite a while and are excited to be bringing closer to operation. Exciting for us is to provide new connections between stations on 35W. We're very good at bringing people in and out of downtown with commuter express service. This adds a new function of being able to connect to other places in the I-35 corridor. This is a fully funded project. We're under construction aligned with major highway projects. We'll be continuing construction through this year and next year, and then opening next winter. This will be the next segment of our metro network that opens, so we're excited for that. Next slide. So just a quick reminder, so bus rapid transit is different from local bus service in that we have improved stations and faster service. So you see heated high-tech shelters with real-time information, well-lit security cameras, emergency telephones, things like that. Basically the feature package that you would have with a light rail station in a more compact configuration. We also have faster service by running limited stop service and then running more frequently. So it's a very useful service for our core urban area. This is a reminder that we have existing BRT service through downtown. So this is our C-Line service that we were honored to accept a 2025 Plan Leadership Award from the Downtown Council last October. So the C-Line has operated well for us in its first year of operation. Orange Line will enhance that with really a congestion-free roadway. So the next slide shows one piece of this. This is a new bus ramp that we have under construction through the MnDOT project that will provide a bus-only in and out on 12th Street into downtown. So you can see how it relates to the other ramps that are in place there. Next slide. The next piece of this is really the crown jewel of this project is the new transit station on 35W at Lake Street. And if you've been on the 35 corridor, you really can't miss this. If you look at the right, you can see what we're replacing. So a set of stairs up to a bus shelter on the side of the freeway, not our best foot forward. Building back and modernizing for the future, you can see where we're at on the left and where we'll be going on the top. Sorry, back to that Lake Street slide if we could. So we will have a full station that will be continuing to be under construction and really make a high quality connection here. Every express and the Orange Line bus trip will stop at this station. So in peak periods, we'll have a bus approximately every minute going into downtown Minneapolis. So a great connection here. Down at the Lake Street level on the next slide, you can get a sense of an improved connection. So in that lower left, you can see what the old bus stop used to look like. Pretty dark and narrow space, and then the new plaza area shown here as well. Both what it'll look like when it's done and the visualization up top, and then the current construction where we're at right now. Next slide. So another piece of the Orange Line is a faster connection across the corridor. And so one way we'll do that is we're going to build a bike and pedestrian and transit tunnel underneath 494. And this is under construction now. This will provide a doorstep access to Best Buy in the Penn American District, the up and coming area in the Southtown area of Bloomington. Building this tunnel saves us 10 minutes per bus trip. And so that's a significant time savings compared to what we do with similar route today that runs via Penn Avenue. This will also bring this area in a much closer bus ride to downtown Minneapolis. So BRT would connect within 15 minutes. That's about what it takes to take a local bus just across downtown right now. You would be able to reach Best Buy's headquarters and the other destinations in this area. Next slide. And then finally, just connecting these together will be other stations. So stations at 66th Street, 76th Street, American Boulevard, 98th Street, and in Burnsville that will be under construction, are under construction now, and will conclude next year. And then we'll introduce this new service. So frequent all day, runs every 10 minutes in the peak period with brand new BRT vehicles, and then a robust connecting bus service plan as well as we prepare for construction. So for service. So we're very excited to bring this and happy to share this update today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Charles. This is a unique part of our award-winning system, and those are amazing images and improvements. We're now going to quick pivot to Chair Zelli, who is an illustrious leader on behalf of our state and our region. And I know you got a presentation, Chair Zelli, and I'm sure you're going to talk about the really big news after so many years of almost being over the skis, but not being over the skis. Take it over. Tell us about the largest transit project in the history of Minnesota.
Thanks, Dan. What an honor to be here today. And I am such a fan of every one of these projects we've just heard about. And I've had some engagement with some of them. And I wanted to, Dave, I wanted to point out on the history of that 3rd Avenue Bridge. In 1980, I worked, at a project, Sanford, Maine, right next door. I convinced MnDOT that the first vehicle across that 1980 renovation was a 1921 Jefferson bus. It's still in a garage, so I know some people at MnDOT. Maybe we could talk about that for the next time.
Sounds like a great idea.
Oh, good. That's the right answer. Maybe the next slide. Dan talked about what just happened on Monday. What's underneath all those masks are huge smiles because we actually signed the $932 million full funding agreement with the Federal Transit Administration. And, for some reason, this is upside down. Usually you get federal funds and you try to get the local match. We've had the local funds for a number of years, thanks to Hennepin County. But we were missing that extra billion, and now it is fully committed. We were assuming it was going to be there, and thank God it is, because this project is going to continue. A $2 billion project is it's large and it's complicated. So next slide. For those who don't know the alignment, this is Minneapolis to Eden Prairie, or Eden Prairie right into downtown Minneapolis, really with 6, if you're including Edina, communities along the way. And it really is an incredible connection, not just of this line itself, but all the interrelated connections it makes to really extend across all the way to St. Paul, because this is an extension of the Green Line, and it has really significant impacts for downtown Minneapolis. Next slide. I can talk more about the decade that happened even before this timeline, all the planning and the routing, but it has been really decades in the making. And as you can see, we have now in a period of full construction and expect to be opening up passenger service in just a few years. Next slide. When you think about this project, and my goodness, I love that I-94 or 35 project, 2.5 miles, 11 bridges, but this is a $2 billion project. This is the largest infrastructure project that's ever been done in the state of Minnesota. This is U.S. Bank, Target Field, and U.S. and TCF Bank Stadium all wrapped up into one in terms of just jobs and I think ultimately economic impact. And because it's a pretty disruptive, this is unlike the other light rail projects when we've been on kind of existing right of way or in the middle of streets. We're having pedestrian tunnels, cut and cover tunnels through very narrow areas, residential areas, it is there. I don't know how many cranes, maybe 40 cranes are in the air. If you follow the cranes, you can see how much every community is being impacted. Next slide. I'm going to just focus on the couple of elements right around Minneapolis. First off, this is not just, as I mentioned, building tunnels and putting in light rail track. It's realigning a lot of the freight rail, not just BNSF, but TCW through the Kenilworth Trail. We're actually moving track to the north to accommodate both the stations and the and the stations and the track. The crash walls that will be protective, so to ensure that there's really adequate safety in every step. Next slide. I want to just focus on this in particular. This is the downtown area, and you can see how from Target Field it's extending around, and at a higher level, at grade, there's a Royalston Avenue North station. And this has particular impact, economic impact, I think, for this area of downtown. And this is something Dan knows a lot in his role at Downtown Council, because this route district really has a tremendous opportunity with this kind of connection with transit. And if you can see the route, it goes above the freight rail BNSF trench and is going at grade across the Glenwood Bridge, which is that bridge yellow on the left side. You can go to the next slide. You'll see this new Glenwood Bridge where the train will have gates and cuts at an angle. So this is a very complicated construction. We're well on our way in this process now. You can go to the next slide and actually see what it is now. This is a massive retaining wall, and we haven't even kind of gotten to some of the track relocations. The bridge will be, you can see where the bridge is going to come in, where it's notched. That's, again, disruptive now, but really I expect to be transformational for this part of downtown and really open up development and future connection. So I want to talk a lot about this corridor. This is this Kenilworth corridor. Little did I know, I'm making this very personal because on Glenwood, I worked at Jefferson headquarters and stared at that. I was 20 feet away from that Glenwood Bridge. And now I'm about 20 feet away from this Kenilworth corridor. So if you hear any noise in the background now, it's because they're doing some serious work, and I'll show you some pictures of that. That makes this complicated because the residential area, the narrowest pinch point is about 59 feet. So to build an actual tunnel in half of this area, which is in red, and then come above and build new bridges over the Kenilworth Channel. This is Cedar Lake is on the north, and then Lake of the Isles on the south, just to orient you. And as we come into downtown, this is an existing, century-old freight rail corridor. We're actually not going onto parkland or residential land, but because of the adjacency is so narrow, it makes it a particular construction challenge. You can see that as we go in facing north, that's Lake Street, that's West Lake Street, which will be a rebuilt bridge. And then the light rail line will come into the tunnel where there's existing, those look like grain silos. They used to be, they're now condominiums. And then, of course, townhouses on the left. So you can see that this freight rail will go underground where the bike trail, pedestrian trails will be above it. And then, of course, the relocated slightly TCW freight rails right on the left. So it shows this is a very massive in a urban project. But as you see when it's finished, it'll be pretty dreamy. Next slide. There's that shows the detail of this tunnel. This is a cut tunnel, meaning you dig a big trench, and then you put the top on. But it is something that will be great when it's done during this period of time. And I can show you the next slides. It's a very complicated construction process. You can see how close we are to the townhouses. That big blue machine is a press and piler. We could actually send big pounding construction for the next 2 years, or this uses very micro vibrations that brings these large metal sheeting that will be the edge of the tunnels in kind of one step at a time. And although it's disruptive, it's a lot less disruptive than it could have been if we didn't use these kind of new construction techniques. So that's just a rough overview, but I want to give you a sense of what this is coming in Minneapolis in particular, and it is never about one project of how it relates to all the others. So I'm thrilled that we could present just a quick overview, and happy to take questions.
Chair Buzzelli, thank you so much. Friends, it's 11:58, almost 11:59, and so unfortunately, we have to wrap up. There are a couple really interesting questions that were posted. One about a parking lot near Waterworks for Gene, another one about BRT and will it extend to the Burnsville Mall for Charles, and for Met Council, questions about parking strategies related to the Green Line. And to Charlie's comment, there could be $3 to $10 billion of redevelopment at the Royalston area, the farmers market area. We're aspiration calling the Root District, tracking that closely. It could take a quarter of a century, who knows, but the built form and the zoning is calling for that. And so all of these pieces that you have just described, bringing public access, using and leveraging public and private partnerships to pull these things off, represents more money than we can possibly get our brains wrapped around, and the amount of time that it's taking. So I just want to invite everybody. These presentations will be posted. Please take the time to pose those questions for our speakers. Obviously, in the case of Charlie, it may or may not be him personally responding, but he's got all of them have amazing teams of people who can respond. So thank you for joining us today on behalf of the Downtown Council and on behalf of the Easttown Business Partnership. There's forums almost every other week between our organizations, and we appreciate your time here and trust that you'll stay engaged to help shape and lead where downtown Minneapolis is going for the next year and the next many years ahead. So thank you to everyone who's attended. Thank you to our esteemed panelists. Thank you to Steve Kramer and the Minneapolis Downtown Council staff. Have a wonderful rest of the day.